Welcome to another episode of CrockTalk TV. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And on today's episode, we are talking about the wide receiver 3 position. And I mean, really, we could talk about wide receiver 3, 4, 5, whatever y'all want to get to. But before we get started, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys hit that like button right now if you're not already. So I'm going to let a few more people filter in here before we really get started on this conversation. I got some ideas, man. I don't need to say ideas, but I got some thoughts. I got some thoughts on people just kind of the way they're kind of just throwing stuff at a wall, seeing what sticks. That's never a good idea. Kevin White, that's another name. All right. But I have a legit kind of idea on how this whole thing might play out and maybe what the 49ers are thinking. All right. So again, make sure you guys, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. What's up, Croc? Wide receiver 3 through 6. It looks like a 10-way camp battle. This is definitely interesting. Justice for Richie James, man. We will be talking a lot about Richie James today. Croc faithful, let's effing go. Yes, sir. Killer, I hear you. Yeah, I hope Jalen Hurd wins the job. We're going to see, man. We are going to see. Before we get started, though, you know what? Let me talk a little bit about, there was kind of this headline about Julio Jones and the Patriots being interested. And I kind of came out and I was just like, man, that don't make no sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you throw all these resources at the receiver position, and I feel like there has to be a plan, right? What's up, Josiah? I see you, Croc. What up, baby? There has to be a plan, right? And I just kind of tweet this out again. I'm just going to talk about this until we get started with the 49ers stuff. But, I'm seeing the Julio and Patriots. I'm like, that just does not make any sense. And why don't it make sense to me? I mean, let's just look at it, right? Like, teams do go into off seasons with legit plans. Like, they don't just come into off season and just like, well, we just going to do all this random stuff. And to see Julio Jones and Patriots and all that, I'm just like, dude, well, what was the point of spending all that money on Hunter Henry? What was the point of spending all that money on Smith, Jonnu Smith? What was the point of going out, paying Kendrick Bourne what they paid him, going out, paying Aguilar what they paid them? And I'm not saying that, like, all those dudes are just so great. And it's like, yeah, I'd rather have all these guys than a Julio Jones or anything like that. But there's some kind of plan and some type of direction that the Patriots wanted to go in. So when you see that, they are interested in having a Julio, and it's like, okay, I get it. Who would not be interested in having Julio? I feel like everybody should. But as far as like being realistic about it, it's like, Patriots, you guys have all these different guys like that you just paid. Like, you just paid them. Now, if they didn't just pay Kendrick Bourne, whatever it was, not saying it's top tier money, but if they didn't pay Kendrick Bourne, whatever it was, and Nelson Aguilar or whatever it was, and they really made Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry some highly paid tight ends, I think they're kind of showing the direction that they want to go in with their receivers and tight ends and kind of the offense that they want to game plan around them, So I kind of looked at it like, and again, as a fan, it's like, dude, go get Julio. He's better than all these dudes. But as an owner, it's like, bro, if this was something that you thought you might want to do, why the hell are we spending all this money on all these other receivers? I kind of compared it to like going out and getting dinner for your wife and kids, right? So let's say, I'm gonna use this analogy. I go and get dinner a lot. Like, when it's my time to kind of take care of dinner, I'm going out, bro. I ain't cooking or nothing now, right? So I ask the kids, like, what do y'all want to eat for dinner? And they say, well, we want pizza. Well, one wants pizza, the other one wants chicken wings, and my wife wants Taco Bell, all right? So I go out and I get, go to these different spots, and I go and get this food, and I bring it home. I spend $75 or something, right? Whatever. I spend about $75 on pizza, go get some chicken wings, and get my wife's dinner. I bring that back home, and they're like, well, thank you for bringing all this dinner. I know you spent all this money, but you know what? We want some Papa Do's, right? Like, and it's like, yeah, Papa Do's is better, but like, hold on. I just spent all this money on the pizza, wings, and the Taco Bell. And now you want me to turn around and just forget about all that money I just spent on this and go out and go get you Papa Do's just because it's better? Like, no, y'all gonna eat this dinner I just bought. And I think that's kind of where I'm going with it, right? Like, I bet Robert Kraft is like, I just bought you all the groceries that you said you wanted to cook with. And now you're telling me, well, yeah, you're gonna cook with these groceries, but you want even more? Like, we gotta trade assets and pay Julio? After just paying Jonnu, after just paying Hunter, after just paying Kendrick Bourne, after just paying Aguilar? Like, no, bro, you're tripping. And that was kind of my thought process. Not so much from like just the how I would feel as a coach. Of course, I want Julio. What's Papa Do's? It's not Papa Do's. Is like, this is an expensive place. Listen, I don't eat there either. I think I ate there one time when I was in San Antonio. I hate spending money on food, so you're not gonna get much out of me when it comes to spending a whole bunch of money on food. But you know what? Y'all didn't come here for this New England Patriot and Julio Jones talk. Y'all came here to talk about the 49ers and the wide receiver core. All right. George Kittle would like some pizza, wings, and Panda Express right this minute. I know he loves Panda Express, right? Was it him or Trent Taylor? It was one of them. All right. So let's talk about the 49ers. Let's talk about the 49ers. Before we get started, again, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, all that good stuff. All right. Hit that subscribe and that like button. If the Patriots do that move, that means Belichick is really desperate. Here we go. I'll put this up. If the Patriots do that move, it means Belichick is really desperate to not lose that Brady or Belichick talk about who was responsible for the Patriots' success. I can see that being the case. At the end of the day, everybody wants to win. And I know there's probably nobody more competitive in the world than Bill Belichick. Now, I'm not to say there's not people as competitive as Bill Belichick, but as far as wanting to win, like that's what the Patriots are, right? Like they have that culture of just like success. So now 49ers, wide receiver 3 position. So we saw Marquis Lee get signed, and there were a lot of people on Twitter that was like, oh yeah, Marquis Lee, like, you know, and it's just like, nah, like you'll know what a team feels about a player by the guaranteed money. All right. And he ain't had no guaranteed money. So if you don't have guaranteed money, like really it's just an opportunity and it's like a, you know, we'll see what we get. But I don't think that they were ever expecting him to just legitimately be a wide receiver 3. Now let's talk about how the 49ers kind of have constructed this and maybe what their thought process is. Remember, I thought they would draft a receiver at some point, and they did not at all. They didn't make that a priority at all. So I'm trying to look at it and see, all right, what are the 49ers thinking? So you look at, let's just kind of go through and talk about who the 49ers have at receiver. All right. And this is in no particular order, but Brandon Ayuk, Travis Benjamin, River Craycraft, Benny Fowler, now that they just signed him, Jalen Hurd, Richie James, Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, Mohamed Sanu, Trent Sherfield, who we don't even really talk about, right? And I don't know why Trent Taylor's on here, but Austin Watkins, Kevin White. You kind of look at those names and it's like, I can see a scenario where guys are fighting for that 3 spot. But if I kind of had to bet right now on who those guys are, actually, we're not even going to get to that. Well, let's talk about just kind of how it's constructed right now. The way that it's constructed right now is at the end of the day, whoever your wide receiver 3 is really your 4th option. That's how you got to look at it. So your number 1 option at target at the end of the day is George Kittle. And there's no debating that, right? Like that's your guy. He's probably going to end up with the most targets. He's going to end up probably with the most yards, all that good stuff, right? Like George Kittle, that's your number 1 guy. So I know there's a lot of other teams that have like wide receiver 1. The 49ers might not have just a cut dry wide receiver 1 on their team, but they have a tight end that really fills in that role. And they use him like he's the guy. He's the focal point of everything that they do. Everything is kind of created off of him. Just like if you were Atlanta Falcons or if you were, you know, anybody else like Julio Jones. Julio Jones, the offense is kind of structured around him. Now, other guys may get open because of how they draw up things for Julio, and maybe he pulls coverages. So then the other guys are able to kind of eat off of that. Like really, he's been very good. He's had a successful career so far. But at the end of the day, the focal point of the offense is Julio Jones. And it would be stupid to not have it that way, right? Same thing with George Kittle. The offense runs through George Kittle. what the 49ers do, everything wants to go through him. And not just in the passing game, in the run game as well. But that's your number one target. All right. So again, whoever the wide receiver 3 is, he's your fourth option. And that's how you have to view him. So who is the next guy? It's either Debo or Ayuk. You can say 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it. They utilize both guys in different ways, right? But both of those guys will, they're going to get their touches and maybe they go with the hot hand. If I had to say, like, who would get the most targets out of Debo and Ayuk, I would guess Ayuk, but it's kind of tricky because Debo also gets a lot of the end arounds and shovel passes and things like that, where it's kind of manufactured touches to where, it's not like they're throwing the ball downfield to him. I mean, he might get, what was it, in the Rams game? He had like 6 catches, and I feel like they were all like within a yard or less, behind the line of scrimmage. So, Debo is not somebody who they have to like, get targets or touches in that way downfield, probably the way that they will with Brandon Ayuk. So I look at those guys as 1A, 1B, and their targets might be around the same, even though they'll probably be utilized just slightly different on a consistent basis. All right. And then you go to the wide receiver 3 spot, which again is really the fourth option. So who is it going to be? And I'm thinking if you were in an offense like the Saints or the Rams, where the Rams use so much, right? 11 personnel, right? 1 tight end, 1 back. So you have 3 receivers on the field. Saints use a lot of that. Rams use a lot of that, right? If you're in an offense like that, then I think your wide receiver 3 is a little more important, even with the tight end being on the field. Like your wide receiver 3 is like, man, we kind of need this to be a guy. The 49ers run a lot of 21 personnel. I think maybe one of the top 21 personnel teams in the NFL. If not the top, maybe Ravens run a little bit more. Probably the Vikings are up there too. So when you look at the 49ers, I think like the wide receiver 3 thing to me is like always like the sexy thing to say, or that's a sexy thing to discuss. But the 49ers don't need that to be a high volume guy. And they don't have to put a whole lot of resources into that because of the offense that they typically run. So that's that part. So I can't really see them investing too much in the guy to go there. I know I'm not going to get to Crowder just yet, but I'll get to him. But just overall, just the thought process on how they run their offense, how they figure they'll go about it. I can't see them, thinking like, we got to have a wide receiver 3. Now, when does a wide receiver 3 come in handy for the 49ers? I would say if somebody gets hurt, right? Now, Debo missed a ton of time last year. Ayuk missed 4 games, right? Brandon Ayuk missed 4 games last year. That's when a wide receiver 3 is much more important because now you need him on the field, right? You need a guy who's going to make plays. So let's talk about that, right? There was the Marquis Lee thing, and there were a lot of people that wanted to talk about Marquis Lee and talk him up and everything. And again, I love Marquis Lee coming out of USC. I really thought, I want to say maybe it was his sophomore year. The way he was balling, I was like, dude, like this dude is going to be like a top 10 pick. Like that's how he was balling. Then he hurt his knee. And obviously from there, it was just kind of inconsistent, right? Dealt with a lot of injuries over his career. And that's kind of what he's been. He had a couple good years with Jacksonville, good years, like around 800 yards, 2 years. But just he's dealt with too many injuries. And that's kind of been his issue, right? So there were a lot of people that really liked the thought of him, but I never looked at him. I thought he'd have a chance to compete for that spot, but I never looked at it like, oh yeah, Marquis Lee, wide receiver 3. Now they cut him. And it sounds like he maybe has some type of injury. And now they have, they signed Benny Fowler. Again, Benny Fowler, I look at him just like I looked at, Marquis Lee, where it's just like, okay, well, he'll have some type of opportunity. Now, when we first got in here, somebody had put in the comments like, hey, man, there's like, 10 guys competing for the wide receiver 3 spot. So let's start talking about different guys that we can kind of visualize being there. And then maybe, we'll talk about Jamison Crowder, kind of mix him in there. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about Crowder now. For everything that I've said leading up to this point, that's why I don't think Crowder will be a 49er. I saw somebody mention, like, Kyle Shanahan, get on the phone, call for Jamison Crowder right now. I know Crowder's contract this year is $11 million. Now, what I don't know is how much of that will the team that trades for him have to take on once they acquire him after June 1st. I don't know that, but I would guess that even then, do you want to bring him into the 49ers and him be your wide receiver 3? And now, again, you have to trade assets for him and then sign him to, whatever contract you bring on with him when you don't even really utilize 3 receiver sets as much. I just don't think it's that much of a priority to go out and get a guy like Jamison Crowder. So, again, I see some names out here, Larry Fitzgerald, Golden Tate, Danny Amendola. Like, those are just names. Like, they're just names. And what I mean by that is, they are guys that can contribute, but so can Richie James, right? Now, we could bring on these guys, and obviously what they've been throughout their career. But in the game where the 49ers pretty much lost every receiver that they had on their roster, they lost. They didn't have Debo. They didn't have Ayuk. They didn't have Kendrick Bourne. They had to go out there with Vinny Sutherland, a.k.a. River Craycraft, and Richie James, right? And what did Richie James do? 9 catches, 180 yards, and a touchdown? Now, again, I'm not saying that's Richie James. I'm not saying Richie James is a walk-in 180 yards a game. But I say that to say, like, Richie James can contribute. I think the lack of production from Richie James, for the most part, is more so a product of, kind of just the offense and it not being a high-volume passing offense like that and really not needing to utilize exactly what his skill set is. And I think other guys kind of carved out roles from themselves, whether it was, Kendrick Bourne and, obviously like, the Debo and the Ayuks, like they have their roles and they know exactly how they're going to play them. And I think Kyle Shanahan knows exactly how he's going to utilize him. And I just don't think there was that much of a need for, Richie James. Now, that can change this year. I think Richie James is somebody who is a terrific route runner. There's a video that I posted of him running a comeback, and it still goes viral to this day. He's somebody who I think plays, tough at the catch point. He gives you that vertical stretching ability. He's a good route runner, and he can play from the slot. If you guys remember back to 2018 preseason, Trent Taylor was hurt. So who had to go out there? It was Richie James. He actually started in the slot, and this might have been his rookie year. And obviously just preseason, but he had like 14 catches for over 100 yards in the preseason. I thought in that game where he really started at the slot position, he did well. He caught a few passes on Dallas, and it was just like, man, like he is somebody who has the ability. Now, again, am I saying he just has a wide receiver 3 spot on lock? No. For whatever reason, he has not been a guy who has played a ton. It might be because other jobs have been just kind of solidified, but also, I mean, why couldn't he play over Kendrick Bourne? Things like that kind of come to mind. So we're going to see. But if I had to, say, like, would I be comfortable with Richie James being the 4th option? I said, yeah. Now, there's some other guys that I think we really want to see compete for this job, right? Jalen Hurd, Juwan Jennings. They're different, right? They're bigger bodies. We're talking about, 6'3", 215. That's what Jennings is. Not the fastest guy. Ran a 4.7. I thought he played kind of at that speed, kind of at one speed, but was obviously extremely aggressive when he has the ball in his hands. And then obviously you have Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd, I think where he's kind of underrated because of his limited experience at the receiver position, he's a hell of a route runner, especially for somebody that's 6'5", 230 pounds. Like, you typically don't see guys who have the ability to run routes the way he does. He kind of has loose hips and he's really fluid in that way. So you look at Hurd, and we all know what the issue is there. You gotta stay healthy, dude. And I don't think that you can depend on him. And obviously I don't think they will. Right. I mean, you look at him and, he had the back injury the first year, torn ACL the second year. I don't think they're expecting much out of him, but it's like, well, hey, let's see how bad he wants it. Let's see if he can come back. Let's see how he recovers. Let's see if he can, beat out other guys that might be, trying to get on the field for that wide receiver 3 spot. And if he doesn't, then All right, I mean, you haven't gotten anything out of them in 2 years anyway. But them not drafting a receiver, them not going big in free agency for a wide receiver 3, that kind of lets me know that they at the very least want to see Jalen Hurd compete. All right. So I kind of look at, just the way they're kind of structuring things. And then everybody else is just kind of names, man. Like, their names, again, I read them off, but you kind of look at them, and Mohamed Sanu, he's intriguing because he's kind of that veteran guy. Now, here's the thing. If you guys kind of go back, I had an interview with Lavelle Hawkins on here. Lavelle played, 6-7 years in the NFL, had a preseason stint with the 49ers. But he was talking about how the tough thing when you're a veteran, like a Mohamed Sanu, if Mohamed Sanu is on the roster week 1 after all the training camp cuts, his contract is guaranteed for the whole year. Whereas if you are to cut him at the end of preseason and then he clears waiver and you bring him back, now he's just week to week. So if I had to guess, I'd say that might be more of a thing that you see. Have him here throughout camp, release him after the preseason, see if, he's a guy who can clear waivers or whatever, and, and you just be able to kind of get back on like a week-to-week basis, but he's going to understand the offense and what's going to be expected from him in that role. I think it's just kind of, everybody else, they're just names. They're just names. Trent Sherfield is maybe the most intriguing. And I know a lot of people like Austin Watkins and maybe the thought of Watkins. We'll see. But Sherfield he's intriguing because the 49ers kind of have lacked in the return game. He's a guy that I've seen play well for Arizona. There was a year recently that they drafted 3 receivers, and he played over all 3 guys, as well as them having, I think they had the guy from Texas A&M, Christian Kirk. So the black background is fire. Hey, thanks, man. Hell yeah. Thank you. I'm out. I'm here in the dungeon, man. I'm here in the gym, in the dungeon, baby. But you kind of look at Trent Sherfield, he's intriguing. And I wish I could, be a fly on the wall at OTAs and just kind of see, how are all these guys looking? How is Trent Sherfield looking? Because he's someone who start talking about that type of role, right? Just something where what you need from just a wide receiver 3. And I mean, he's low cost and, whatever else. And it's not a sexy name, Trent Sherfield, but his value as a return guy, that might be really intriguing to the 49ers, as well as his ability to play outside and inside, even though he's not a bigger body. So I think he might be a guy who's a little slept on throughout this process. But if you get to training camp and you start to hear, hey, Trent Sherfield, man, he's out here, he's balling. I'm not gonna say I'll be I won't be surprised at all, but I think he's played well in his limited action with the Cardinals. I think he is somebody who can be at least competitive for kind of that 4th option, 5th option type guy. All right, I've talked enough now, so I'll start. If you guys want to kind of come on and give your thoughts about who you guys think should be, a wide receiver 3, or maybe guys that they should kind of go after. Here we go. The floor is yours. You guys can come on at any time. All right, but here we go. I'll start kind of going through some of these questions. When Trey starts, Ayuk is the wide receiver 1. I would say why. Why is Ayuk the wide receiver 1 when Trey starts? Why can't Ayuk be the wide receiver 1 when Garoppolo starts? That was my question there. Would you rather have a yards per catch guy or a possession guy? Or yards after catch guy or a possession guy? I'd rather have a yards after catch guy. I like dynamic ability. That's just kind of how I think about the receiver position. I want a guy who, and obviously I'm not saying that there's a need, but if I had to choose between the two, yeah, give me the yards after catch guy. But obviously, possession guy, great. But basically, you're asking me, would I rather have, and we're talking about healthy now, both guys healthy, both guys in the same, situation, same opportunities. Would I rather have Mike Thomas or Odell Beckham? I'm going Odell Beckham. He's just more dynamic. So that's just more of the type of guy that I like. And that's not taking anything away from Mike Thomas. I think Mike Thomas is a terrific receiver. Kevin White, I know he's not someone who I, talked about. We'll see. I was intrigued by the little things that we saw from him. Um, watch him during training camp, look good, moving wise or whatever. But 49ers, they had no receivers, and he was out there and just made zero impact, except for a couple of weird returns. So I'm not really. I mean, again, he played in that game against the Packers when the 49ers had no receivers. And what did he do? They gave River Craycraft more options, more opportunities. So that's what I think about that. Don't underestimate Debo's route running ability. I'm not. I'm not underestimating it. I think Debo's really good with his route running, like for what he is. I think he does a really good job of understanding how to attack defensive backs' leverage. I think he does a terrific job of being able to kind of explode out of his cuts. I think he does a really good job of using his body and catching the ball away from his body in that way. Obviously, he's a bully. I think where a lot of people mess up is what one guy looks like running routes is not what maybe another guy will. Like no two guys look the same. It's going to be different for different people, body sizes. There's some freaks like Julio Jones who runs terrific routes, even though he's 6'3", 220 pounds. Most guys aren't like that, but but then hey, Anquan Bolden, the way he ran routes, it wasn't pretty, but he got the job done. So I mean, at the end of the day, just can you be productive? And I think that should be the most important question. But I do like Debo as a route runner. It just might not look exactly like Brandon Ayuk. Get to some of these questions again. The link is in the chat for anybody who wants to come on the show live. If you aren't already, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already. Hurd, if healthy, will battle Richie James for the wide receiver 3. I can see that. Hey, until I hear otherwise, man, I'm banking on guys like Hurd to be ready to go for training camp. And hey, go compete. I think we hear about these injuries and stuff, and then you just kind of write them off. And again, I'm not expecting much out of them, but Frank Gore tore 2 ACLs before even going to the NFL. So and had a long, healthy career. Still playing. What the hell? So I ain't writing off Hurd. I know there's a lot of people that's writing off Jalen Hurd. I'm not one of them. I saw a question. Yeah, Travis Benjamin. So here's a question. Travis Benjamin. I keep forgetting about Travis Benjamin, but we'll see, right? I think the thought of Travis Benjamin and what he is a little outdated. He hasn't been somebody that has been, very productive in the years leading up to coming to the 49ers. And then he came to the 49ers and opted out. So he's someone who really just hasn't been very productive in a while. So that's somebody, I don't know. I hear Travis Benjamin, but I don't know what to expect from him or anyone else. If I had to say, who would I bet on being more of a contributor, Travis Benjamin or Richie James? I 100% say Richie James. And I really think Richie James can stretch the field a lot more, a lot better than people give him credit for. 49ers didn't really throw the ball downfield too much against Arizona in that last game, but he did catch what he caught a deep ball down the field, down the right sideline, that vertical pass. Tell you, man, y'all don't sleep on Richie James, man. Don't sleep on Richie James in that wide receiver 3 spot. I think this is the first year where he has a legit opportunity to make some type of impact. That's just my guess. Trey Lance going to win the job in training camp. I think we all the expectations for him to win the job, I have low expectations in the sense of he's just gonna come in and hit the ground running and just take over, boom, and it's just gonna be that easy. Like, I don't think it's gonna be like that. But do I see a scenario where he can win the job in training camp? Yeah. And really, the only reason why I say that is because Jimmy Garoppolo has been such a poor practice player, and I've been there. And you guys that know me and been following me, like, I've had media credentials for training camps and home games. I'm right there on the sidelines. Like, I've seen it up close and personal. Jimmy Garoppolo, and I hear people say it, but when you watch him practice, nothing jumps out. I can't, I like it just, there's nothing that jumps out like, oh my gosh, like Jimmy at practice, like nothing. Now, that's not to say Jimmy was bad, but definitely nothing jumped out in the sense of Jimmy Garoppolo being this stud at practice. So where things can get tricky or sticky is if Jimmy isn't playing great at practice and Trey Lance is just this guy that looks powerful arm, throwing the ball downfield. It looks good. Maybe he's a little more consistent. Maybe he looks a little sharper for whatever reasons. If that's the case, again, I'm not going to put those type of expectations on a rookie quarterback. I don't think the 49ers want to, and that's why they've been so passive with their, I don't want to say their praise of him, but just passive with the way that they are approaching the situation, you know, not pushing it on him to be like just this quarterback right out the gate. But that's a long-winded way of saying I can see a scenario where he wins the job, but I'm not putting that on him because I've seen rookie quarterbacks in training camp. Remember, I was there when Geno Smith got drafted, and it was similar battle, right? It was Geno Smith. He got drafted second round, top of the second round, not the same, right? But they drafted Geno Smith. They had Mark Sanchez there, and I saw that battle, and I saw kind of like the weird dynamic of it. And I also saw how Geno Smith handled it. Now, again, these are the things that kind of come into play when it comes to, you know, quarterbacks and their mindsets and things like that. Like Geno and his mindset, like maybe from a maturity standpoint, wasn't where Trey Lance is, which sounds crazy, right? Because, you know, Geno was, you know, at West Virginia for however many years and whatnot. But hey, Mr. Smith. No problem. Thank you so much. I'm gonna come by the house before I leave. Enjoy it, Cajun. Oh, thank you. Yes, sir. Red fish and barbecue shrimp. Oh yeah, can't wait. Are you live? Yeah, I'm live. I'm sorry. Oh, you're good. All right. That's Mr. Smith, y'all. But yeah, where was I at? I saw Geno Smith live as a rookie. I saw Mark Sanchez, and there was a quarterback battle. And what they did was they made Mark Sanchez go on IR. And I don't know if that was just their way of saying, hey, let's just get this rookie quarterback, you know, the reps without the thought of having to look over his shoulder anytime he throws an incompletion. So let's just put Mark on IR. And let's just say his shoulder is hurt or whatever. And that was what they did. Mark Sanchez spent that year on IR. And Geno Smith got all the reps and never had to look over his shoulder. They won 8 games. So, again, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like. Make sure you guys like it, subscribe. Okay, got a contribution. Let's go. Appreciate the content. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate the contribution. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always appreciate those. You from Napa? I see Napa 2323. Do you think we might do wide receiver 3 by committee, kind of like running back? I don't think you typically want to do wide receiver 3 by committee. I think when you go wide receiver 3, like you want guys in there that you trust. The wide receiver, one thing about either wide receiver 3, slot guy, all that stuff, man, you got to be on the same page with your quarterback. There's option routes and all these different things that go in there. I think every time, like you take, especially when it comes to receiver position, every time you take guys off, that can throw off any type of like legit chemistry that you're having. So I think ideally you'd like to go out there with the same 3 guys, and maybe you have a role for somebody else where there's blocking or something like that, where they come in and do blocking. Richie James came in and did a lot of blocking and kind of goes under the radar a little bit. But I think from just a general standpoint, you know, you want You don't want a wide receiver 3 by committee. You want your 3 guys that you really trust and that they're on the same page with your quarterback and not throwing a bunch of other guys in there. And really, the way rosters are kind of set up and constructed, you typically don't have a lot of guys to throw at that position anyways. You're probably going to have, 4 guys maybe active at receiver. So you can't really even do it as much as a committee as you would like because you're not even going to have enough receivers to be active like that. Again, Nap, I want to appreciate you. I want to say thank you. Thank you for the contribution. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. CrockTalk, who's your favorite draft pick this year? Ooh, I mean, I think Trey Lance is probably like the easy answer there. If I had to go away from Trey Lance, I would say Sermon. And I know you guys probably think, hey, Croc, you're a cornerback guy. It's not going to be the cornerbacks, and I like them too. But I think Sermon, man, like I love the way he run that ball, man. Like his balance, his contact balance. That's what they use. That's a little scouting term, contact balance. I like his contact balance. I like his ability to kind of get skinny through holes, make guys miss. Has a nice burst. I love the way that he runs the ball. So one guy that I'm just, I guess, just a little more excited about, I would say Trey Sermon. He was probably my favorite draft pick. A guy on the 49ers whose name may belong to part of the phrase Pop-Tart said Kevin White is the best receiver on the roster. Woo! Hey, Kevin White, I will say this. Whether the best or whatever, he's one of the most talented guys. Now, just because you're the most talented doesn't mean that you are the best. But I will say, 6'3", to be as athletic as he is. Again, I talked about a little bit earlier. I watched him training camp last year. They had the little game, and I just watched how he moved and ran routes. I'm like, damn, it's really good. But it's really hard to say that and see a guy that was active when the 49ers had no receivers and he had zero impact. So he can be the best receiver or whatever the guy's name that rhymes with Pop-Tart said. But it's hard for me to be sold on that when he had this big opportunity and nothing happened. Jimmy throws only behind the line passes to Debo and short middle stuff to Kittle. Trey unleashes Ayuk as a wide receiver 1. I could see a scenario where Trey Lance does, more. I think he can definitely expand on it. But I think even, you talking about quick game. That's kind of what you're talking about here where you're saying that Jimmy Garoppolo excels. I think that, he can excel in the quick game as well. What do you think about, first of all, thank you again for the contribution. I really appreciate the contributions. Yes, sir. Let's go. What do you think about Jalen moving to tight end since he's big enough and took it like Gronkowski and Hernandez? That there's a certain mindset you got to have when playing that tight end position. I think he likes to have it, but I look at guys like that. If you have the ability to just be a big receiver, then just be a big receiver, right? Kelvin Benjamin, he's somebody that people are probably really wanting to, move to tight end, and now he's moved to tight end. But earlier in his career, he didn't have to play tight end. He was 6'5", 245 pounds, but he still was able to move like a receiver, and he boxed out defensive backs, boxed out 49er defensive backs, made catches down the field, was a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie. So now his work ethic, it seems like kind of sucked, and maybe that's why he took a little bit of a hit, but there is value at having a big wide receiver, even, and essentially still can kind of be a tight end as well, like depending on where he's lined up. E-Phrase, yes, I appreciate the contribution. Thank you, my guy. Thank you. Free Richie James. I agree. I feel like they've kind of put cuffs on Richie James a little bit. You look at Richie James and the way they've used him or utilized him, it hasn't been just this, let's just use him. They finally unleashed him against the Packers when they had no other receivers, and he did well. Again, I'm not saying that Richie James is always going to be that caliber of receiver. I don't think so. But I definitely think he's more than good enough to be a contributing third receiver, fourth option on this team. I think he runs good routes underneath. I think he plays well through contact. Sometimes the things that we don't understand is like, does he have it up here with his responsibilities? Maybe he's now on the same page with the quarterbacks and Kyle Shanahan doesn't have time for him. And if that's the case, that's a totally different conversation. But from an ability standpoint, I like him. Again, thank you. Thank you guys so much for the contributions. Appreciate you guys so much. What about a mix of Hurd, James, White, and Benjamin? I don't think you can do that because now you're talking about 6 receivers being active on game day. And I just can't see the 49ers having 6 receivers active. So now you take away one of those names, and I think you might have something there, but do the 49ers even keep 6 receivers? I mean, they might only keep 5. Here we go, another contribution. Let's go. I appreciate it, Croc. If Hurd is healthy, could you see him using Hurd similar as Chase? Okay, so Chase Claypool, he's asking, can I see Kyle utilizing Hurd like Claypool? They're just different. They're different. Claypool has legit vertical speed. Hurd doesn't. Hurd doesn't have that. I just remember watching him and I was like, man, I think he plays fast. I think Hurd plays fast, but I don't think he plays that fast as a vertical threat where Claypool can really run by you. Claypool can run by you. Now, they didn't just utilize Claypool vertically. I think that definitely helps. They definitely did underneath stuff with him, and they did the end around and all that, things to get him the ball in his hands around the line of scrimmage. Scored, 3-4 touchdowns in like multiple games. Like, we're talking about somebody that was a beast. And I'm not saying that Hurd can't be utilized at all like a Claypool, but I don't think he'd be utilized as the full repertoire of what Claypool gives you as a vertical threat as well. And to me, that's a big deal. But underneath stuff, I talked about Hurd and his route running. I think it's terrific. You just got to keep him healthy, man. And I think he could have been contributing. 49ers plan is to keep 6 receivers. Okay. See, I haven't heard that just yet, but if that is something that they said that they want to do, I could see that. I could see them keeping 6 receivers. What 6 receivers are going to keep? Maybe our guy Amin he can answer this question. Oh yeah. What's up, man? How you doing?
What up? I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Here we go. I forgot I didn't have my headphones in. All right, here we go. How you doing, man? You good?
I'm good.
All right, so what you coming on to talk about today? You still blew me away last time, man. I was talking about that for a while. I even told my wife, like, babe, there's this kid, man. Like, I feel like he has more knowledge of the football team than I do. All right, so what you got going on, man? What's on your mind?
I have a question for you. When do you think the 49ers should start Trey Lance?
Ooh, when should the 49ers start Trey Lance? Great question. If it's me, I want to do it right away. Now, I know there's a lot of people that want to do it midseason, and we've seen that work too, right? Remember when the 49ers went with Colin Kaepernick? They can say it was because of the injury to Alex Smith. They could say all that. But at the end of the day, when it happened, they could have went right back to Alex Smith. Remember, they were 7-1 at that time, I believe, or 7-2 I think they ended up losing that game. So they were like 7-1, and I think they ended up losing that game. And that was the game before that. Alex Smith was coming off of a game where he went like 20 or 22 passing with like multiple touchdowns. Randy Moss scored a touchdown. It was like Arizona. And even then they elected to go to Colin Kaepernick because they just felt like he gave them more of an opportunity. So I do think that there's a scenario where they do something like that with Trey Lance. But for me, if you really want to get this guy ready, and you're not going to understand this analogy, but sometimes things happen and you end up having a kid, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm not ready for a kid," like, or there's other people that's like, "Oh, I'm going to plan for a kid," and it's just like, really, at the end of the day, you never are fully ready to have a child, right? There's so much responsibility that it takes on, and I think that's the same thing with the quarterback position. You're never truly ready to start as a rookie, but you have to get as ready as possible. And whatever comes with that, you take those lumps and stuff like that. Now, they're in a position where they don't have to do that, so maybe they won't. But I could see that, being like right away. If it's me, start him right away, and then just take his lumps and have him get better from there. And then maybe, hey, let's see where he's at, and for a playoff run.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think we should start him. I think we should start him week one. And the only reason I'm saying that is because, like, he's not going to a bad team. Number one, he's going to the Niners, who actually have a pretty good team, good offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, really good head coach. So he's going to a place where he can succeed. Unlike like Trevor Lawrence is going to a rebuilding team, Zach Wilson is going to a rebuilding team. These guys are going to like teams where it's going to take a couple of years before they become playoff contenders. Well, like the Niners are already they were playoff contenders 2 years ago, and they become playoff, and they could go to the playoffs again this year. So I think we should start in week one, like, or like the difference between Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes also, when he played his first year, he made it to the AFC Championship game. And the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Trey Lance is Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, where Trey Lance is sitting behind Jimmy Garoppolo, who's okay. But Trey Lance can succeed, and also that run game and that defense can help him a lot. And it's also a rookie-friendly schedule. The schedule isn't hard for Trey Lance. Trey Lance can beat Detroit. Trey Lance can beat Houston, especially with that run game and that defense. It can be done. And Patrick Mahomes did it with the Chiefs when he started that first year. And Trey Lance is not going to a rebuilding team. He's going to a team that already has a good run game, that has a good defense. He has weapons. So I could see Trey Lance make the playoffs this year. And I wouldn't be shocked if he made it to the NFC Championship game or the divisional round. I wouldn't be shocked. So
you would just throw him in, right? Throw him in the deep end and just see if he swims.
yeah, he's going to a team where he can succeed. It's not like Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson don't have any chance because they're gonna go and they're gonna start week one because I don't know who the Jets are gonna start over Zach Wilson. I don't know who the Jaguars are gonna start over Trevor Lawrence. They're gonna start week one. But I could see Trey Lance. Why not start Trey Lance week one? He should be able to make it work. I understand that he played in a D2 school, but he should be able to make it work with a team that is pretty good. And the schedule isn't hard for Trey Lance. We with Jimmy Garoppolo, we're this close to almost beating the Seahawks. And sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. The Packers we killed last year with that defense. Nick Bosa's coming back. So someone like those tough games, yes, it might be challenging, but our defense and our run game should be able to handle the Packers. Our defense should do pretty good against the Seahawks, but I know we're still going to go down to the last second. And like the Colts, it's going to be Lance versus Wentz. But I still see we could be successful with Trey Lance, and I feel like we should start Trey Lance week one over Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think one good point that you made, and I'll let you get out of here, but one good point that you made, man, you talked about the schedule, and I think I saw something where the 49ers play like 6 out of the 7 teams, excluding themselves, they play teams that had the first 7 picks this year. So they play Jaguars, who had number 1 overall. Do they play the Jets?
They do. They don't play the Jets this year.
They don't play the Jets, but they play all the other teams. They play definitely the Lions. They play the Bengals. They play the Eagles. So if there is a schedule that you would need to kind of get rolling, definitely I think they have that something like they can help a rookie quarterback. But man, I'm gonna get you out of here, man. I appreciate you coming on, dropping knowledge again. You already know it. Anytime I go live, man, I'm gonna get you on here. All right.
Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Here we go. Let's bring on Brian. What's up, man?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. You're off mute now. We got you.
Dude, this mic is awesome. I got one of these Blue Yetis. Isn't that what you're using?
Yes, sir. It's definitely. Yep, got a little Blue Yeti. I actually
Nice.
This was one of my homies, man. I was talking on the mic and he was like, "Hey, Croc, I got a mic for you. I know you said you needed one, and he gave it to me, man, and I've been using it ever since. It's been a couple years now."
Nice. I got this as an early birthday present. My birthday is tomorrow, so.
Oh, that's what's up. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I was actually wondering kind of what you're thinking about the tight end battle behind Kittle, because the Niners run so much heavy personnel, and Kittle's incredible. Juszczyk is awesome, but they've both kind of been nicked up a little bit, and we've got, Dwelly and Warner behind them, but what do you think that battle for like tight end 2 is going to look like?
Oh, man. If I had to just guess off the top of my head, I think they go with Dwelly. He's been there and he's done a good job of kind of solidifying that position as like the tight end 2. Warner, it seems like they worked him in there, but he's supposed to be like a great blocking tight end. And I don't think he was that great blocking last year. So I think that's definitely something that's a little intriguing, but I would have liked to see them maybe address that tight end 2 spot. They went and got Jordan Reed last year, And we saw how well that worked out when he was healthy. Now, again,
Yeah.
he's never been someone to just be healthy for a long time, and he dealt with his injury last year. But when he was on the field, you saw how much it helped having him. So I definitely would have seen them. I would have liked to see them add another tight end. And I'm kind of upset that they didn't, now that I think about it. I don't know. I'm kind of scared of the tight end position behind George Kittle.
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous. I love Kittle. That's my one jersey. I got a Kittle jersey, but like last 2 years, he's missed like a couple games here and there, and I don't know who we're gonna have as tight end too. I know we added like Josh Peterson, like Peterson's kid, but I watched a little bit of him, and he didn't impress me. His blocking looked, I can't scout, but what I saw was very uninspiring from run blocking.
Now you probably know what you're looking at.
I don't think he's big enough.
Yeah, and now you can look at it because I think he went to like maybe a smaller school, right? So it wasn't like he was
like Louisiana Monroe or something.
Yeah, so he could get to the NFL when we talk about his blocking and maybe not being strong enough. Maybe he needs to get in that NFL weight room where he can kind of devote, all his time to blocking. I think sometimes when you look at guys like that, right, father, NFL coach, and you still kind of struggle in certain aspects of your game, is like maybe he's just kind of tapped out, athletically. But it would be nice to kind of see if he can get stronger and whatnot. But I don't think that's somebody that we're going to be banking on too much to kind of break the roster as a tight end too or whatnot.
Yeah, because I think he measured in at like 6'5", 230-ish, running like a 4.8. And I mean, if you're that small, you got to be a lot faster. And if you're not that big, like you got to be a really good blocker. And I think it's one of those things where, hey, you played well at a small college school, but I don't see him translating with that physical kind of profile. And that kind of leads back to, Dwelly or Warner, or do you think maybe we see Kittle play more, Juice? Do you think we get more Juice this year?
Oh, I think I think the way that they pay him and they utilize him in those type of roles as a pass catcher.
Yeah.
So, I'd expect the 49ers to run, a heavy 21 personnel and utilize Juszczyk, split them out. Like they have the luxury to be able to go 21 personnel and split Juszczyk out into a slot position and kind of utilize him as a tight end. So, and not saying he's going to catch a ton of passes from there, but just the threat of him being able to catch a pass. I mean, we saw him against the Seahawks a couple years ago, just run right by the linebacker downfield for a slot fade. So they can utilize him in the passing game as a tight end if they want to. I think maybe that's how they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I hope that we see a lot more of those juice plays where he does like a fake block up the middle and the linebacker thinks he's blocking, he just kind of like leaks out to the side and he's wide open. Yeah. I think it was like 3 times last year where the quarterback just like missed him and he was wide open, would have been like a 20-30 yard catch.
Yeah, so hopefully they connect on those this year.
Yeah, we need more juice. More juice.
More juice. I like that. We need to make that a slogan. More juice. #.
Yep.
But all right, Brian, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna get some more guys on here. Hey, anytime you see me live, make sure you click that link and come on. I appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. See you later.
All right, man. Oh, and is it your birthday? You said?
Yeah, tomorrow. The big 32. Super exciting.
Oh man. Well, I remember when I turned 32. I act like I'm an OG. I'm a couple years older than you, but I just turned 34 a couple days ago on the 20th.
Oh, nice. Happy birthday.
Good. All right, thanks, man. All right. Happy early birthday.
Thanks. See you later.
All right. Yo, how you doing, man?
How you doing, Eric?
Oh man, I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
What's that hat you have on? Is that a 49er Super Bowl hat?
Yeah, it's a 49er Super Bowl hat, Yep.
Okay, nice.
So if you see, my name, I'm 49ers Ultimate Report, John Jay. I have my own YouTube channel, and I've been doing live streams with, other small YouTubers, and a lot of my comments are talking about, hey, John Jay, you need to check out this guy, Eric Crocker. So I've been recently watching some of your stuff, and I didn't know that you were in the NFL. So I'm like, man, how did I not know about this guy? So I'm really thankful to the people who follow you and also follow me telling me about you. So thanks for having your channel, man. And I'm going to be following you from now on, man. So thanks very much for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, at the end of the day, man, I definitely had, my time playing football and whatnot. But now I'm just a fan like y'all. So, I don't look at it like, oh, NFL player or anything like that. I just give my perspective, which I try to bring a different perspective, for everybody. And maybe, a lot of my time playing kind of goes into that. But ultimately, man, I'm just like y'all. I'm just a fan, and I try to, just give my analysis. So I appreciate everybody that kind of, recommended that you listen to me. Make sure if you can, either send me a DM. Are you on Twitter or anything?
No, I don't have a Twitter. I don't have, all I have is a
Okay.
YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, so if you can somehow tag me in something or put your link in the chats, and I'll see if I can try to click on it or whatnot. But I definitely want to try to get in there and subscribe to your YouTube channel. Try to send me a message somehow.
Oh, yeah, I will. So basically, I saw, the title of your show about the number 3 receiver, and I wanted just to give my opinion. For those who follow me, I just present the information, and I'll let the fans, think what they want. And so when the 49ers, everyone knows about Brandon Ayuk and, Debo Samuel. And the biggest question everybody wants to know who's going to be that number 3 guy. And we've been hearing Julio Jones's name. We've been saying, Richie James, what about Hurd? Is he healthy? Things like that. And, I was a little bit disappointed that, Shanahan and Lynch didn't look for a wide receiver in the draft. I know we got Austin Watkins from a small school in Louisiana, and, he's a wide receiver. So hopefully, the 49ers know what they're doing when it comes to what they're trying to do. Like they signed Marquis Lee, and then they cut him. I don't know why they did that. Sign him and then cut him, and then Benny Fowler. So hopefully, they figure out, what they do with that number 3 wide receiver. Hopefully Richie James does, step up, show, what he's able to do. Because at the end of the day, I like Richie James, but we'll see what happens. So that's just my thoughts about that topic.
Nah, definitely. And I'm with you. I think ideally you'd hope that Richie James and Jalen Hurd can just kind of solidify that spot. Maybe Hurd stays healthy. Now you can't count on Hurd staying healthy, and we'll see why Richie James hasn't been able to kind of take over that wide receiver 3 spot, in the last couple of years, especially since he's been on the field, a good amount, and kind of had some opportunities and whatnot. But I'm intrigued, man. I'm intrigued to see kind of how that whole thing shakes out. Will Mohamed Sanu keep it? I know I've seen some people in the comments saying sign Golden Tate. I think when you look at a veteran like Tate, that'll kind of be like none of these younger guys. Hurd, maybe he's not healthy and he's just not going to be there. Richie James, he's just not getting it. I think at that point, you might look to maybe sign a Golden Tate. And that's if you don't want to keep Mohamed Sanu, who you already have. So they probably look at Sanu and Tate in the same kind of the similar type of situation with the guys. Like they can both kind of do some of the same things. So we'll see, man. We'll see how they play it out.
Well, thanks very much for having me on. I subscribe to your channel, and then I'll leave you a message on one of your videos, so you can check out my stuff. And hopefully, this is not the last time I talk to you, man. But thanks very much for taking this short time to talk to me, and continue growing, man. This guy Eric Crocker, I was so grateful that someone told me about you, man, because I didn't know who you were. So thanks, man.
Yeah. All good, man. I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That was a good call, man. That was a good call. Nick T, man, you didn't even want to say anything, man. You just wanted to shoot me a contribution, and I appreciate that, man. That's love right there. That's love. That is love. I appreciate everybody kind of coming in here, contributing to the conversation, keeping things going. Let's see, McWorld kind of talking a little bit about Trey Lance. Let's see, I'll just kind of give my analysis or, kind of a response. How many contested throws has Lance thrown that were completed? If he's inaccurate, he's open to a ton of interceptions. So how many contested throws has Lance thrown that were completed? If he's inaccurate, that can lead to a lot. Yeah. I don't chart those things, so I don't know. And I would assume, coming from an FCS school, Maybe he didn't have to throw a ton of contested passes. I would say with the 49ers, let's say he's not the best at throwing contested passes, right? And I think I've seen him throw some that were really good dots and whatnot, but let's say he's not the best. What do we say the most about Kyle Shanahan? What's Kyle Shanahan's best ability? I'll just kind of let that question kind of sink out there a little bit. I want to see some of your guys' responses. But if you were to say Kyle Shanahan as an offensive coordinator, what's his best ability? I'll wait for those responses. Again, if you guys aren't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys hit that like button right now. All right. Did anybody respond? Y'all don't know. We talk so much about Kyle Shanahan, all the things that he does extremely well. What's the thing he does best? And then I'll talk about how it pertains to, this question. All right. Let's see. Scheming guys open. There we go. Where is it at? No, not choking. Scheming guys open. So, again, that's not to say that Kyle Shanahan or Trey Lance isn't going to have to, complete tight window throws and things like that. But the thing that we praise Kyle Shanahan for the most as an offensive mind is being able to scheme guys open, right? Like he understands how to put defenders in the bind according to their rules. I think that's the part that really gets the guys open. He understands how to challenge defenders with what their rules are and attack the weakness of it. And in turn, you get guys that run open. So if Kyle is able to do that, then I think Trey Lance should be fine until he improves on maybe being able to throw or be more comfortable throwing those tight window throws. Maybe he never gets more comfortable doing it. But, I wouldn't quite – that wouldn't be what I worry about with Trey Lance. Not that. I think with the more reps in general, he's just going to be more comfortable as a passer. So I think he did good throwing. I don't want to say contested, but with guys being covered, putting the ball in good spots, I think he did that well. I think if any quarterback is inaccurate on throws, they'll lead to turnovers. So that's just kind of my thought on that. There was another one that he said, FBS don't mean crap. Lance got an INT in practice already from Demo. He did. Lance did get picked off. I'll say this, and just kind of my experience from doing, one-on-ones and practice and whatnot. Quarterback got to throw the ball. Like, it's one-on-ones. Now, if you don't throw the ball, maybe he could have held it, right? So would you have rather him not throw the ball at all and Demo just say, hey, I just had a great rep and it was kind of wasted? Because that's kind of what happens there, right? Like, it's like when I'm cornerback, like, dude, one-on-ones is made for the offense. Receiver has all day to get open and the quarterback can just throw it to a spot. But if the cornerback just straps the receiver, like Austin Watkins got strapped, and, if you get locked up like that and I'm the cornerback, bro, throw the ball regardless. Throw the ball. Don't be sitting on this ball, dude. One-on-ones. You don't get no award for not throwing an interception in one-on-one. Throw the damn ball. So, FCS. I know you put FBS, but FCS is what he played in, and he didn't have the interceptions in his redshirt freshman year, and he threw, one and during one-on-ones at practice. But hell, I actually want to see him throw more interceptions in practice because that lets me know he's challenging himself. I don't want him to always take the easy throw, throughout. Like, challenge yourself. See what you can get away with. See what you can't get away with. In the process, you might throw some interceptions. But at least he's working to, see what he can and cannot get away with. Jamal, I appreciate the contribution. Appreciate the super chat. You guys are killing it today. I love it. Appreciate you, Croc. You're a real one. Do you like Jamison Crowder as a possible signing? He, if he's cut and if we don't get or go after Julio. I would say this about Crowder. I like him. You might have to trade for him. They might actually just have to cut him because I can't see somebody really wanting to pay Crowder that much money. So if he is somebody that just gets cut, how does he fit in with what the 49ers need. I think he fits in well. I like him a lot. I wonder, can Richie James give you maybe some of that type of production? Maybe he can't. Maybe he can. So I think 49ers are definitely that's something that they're going to have to see. If I had to guess the 49ers, I think just kind of with how they've attacked this offseason, I really think that they want to see what they can get out of some of these guys. Like that's what I'm guessing. I think they want to know what can we get out of, Richie James. What can we get out of Hurd? What can we get out of Jawan Jennings? Like some of these guys that we have invested in to some extent. Hey, Kevin White, he's been with us for now. This is going on 2 years. Like, what can we get out of him? I think they're going to give guys an opportunity. And if none of those guys take a hold of the third or fourth receiver spots, and maybe Sanu does, then, and then again, what does Sanu do? Is Sanu not good enough in that slot position to where it's like, okay, now I have to go out and get Crowder? I think we forget about Sanu. He's a veteran just like the other guys. All right, so that's just kind of my thought process on that. Here we go, Mariah. Again, thank you for the contribution. Keep up the great work, Croc. Always great content and one of the top places to go. I appreciate all that you do. Well, I appreciate you coming in here, always contributing to the conversation. I read the comments, of course, and I see you in there all the time. I appreciate that. You're going to have to come on, man. You guys know the link is in here. I like to hear from you guys as well. So, again, I really appreciate the contribution. Matt, I appreciate the contribution as well. I mean, don't even want anything, don't even want to be a part of the conversation, but left a contribution. I really appreciate that. Let's go. Yes, sir. All right. Lance can be like Jimmy. Throw the open comebacks. LOL. Well, I don't know. He's not like Jimmy. They're different. I think the reason why they're most different, aside from like the running ability, is just how I think Jimmy Garoppolo, his biggest issue is he kind of limits the offense. He doesn't have like this big arm ability to throw the ball outside the numbers consistently. Balls kind of die on him. I think the other part is, for whatever reason, he's just not comfortable throwing downfield. Now, maybe he's just the rapport with the receivers, whatever, but I mean, we don't see him throw tight window passes. We haven't seen him throw back shoulder passes. To me, that kind of says they don't really have that type of rapport. Maybe he's just not that type of quarterback. It seems like Kyle Shanahan has definitely dialed up an offense where Jimmy Garoppolo feels comfortable being able to execute, and I think Jimmy executes it at a fairly high level, at least one that can get you to the Super Bowl. But it does limit, I think, some of the things that Kyle Shanahan might want to do. When I look at Trey Lance, I think that if I just had to just look at him, I'd say his strengths are complete opposite of what Jimmy's are. Jimmy likes to get the ball out right now, throw those tight window passes over the middle, into small windows. I'd say Trey Lance, the things that he's best at right now, throwing the ball outside the numbers and throwing the ball down the field while still being able to go through his reads. So I'd say just in general, Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, they're really kind of opposite from what I've seen. And I didn't really talk about Trey Lance's running ability. That kind of adds to it. So not saying that Trey Lance is going to come in and be better than Jimmy. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, they're the things that their strengths are, at least right now, they're just different. Now, what you would bank on with Trey Lance is that, okay, maybe he's not as comfortable doing some of those things that Garoppolo is good at, but he can grow into doing that, where Jimmy, he kind of just is what he is. All right. Again, Matt, I appreciate the contributions. Let's go. Mostert lives in Cleveland. Easier for him to sign with the Browns. All right. He gets hit, then he goes down. That must be talking about Jimmy. I've seen Jimmy take some shots and get up, man. I think Jimmy is tough as nails. I think he might be a little too tough, man. He stands in there and takes all these hits and kind of gets beat up a little bit. And, I think, again, Jimmy's biggest issue to me, I think he executes very well. I think Jimmy executes well, at least what Kyle Shanahan has drawn up for him. If I had to say, where his weakness is really obviously staying healthy. He's been hurt 2 out of the last 3 years. But throwing outside the numbers and throwing down the field. And I think that really kind of condenses the field. It condenses what Kyle Shanahan can do unless he schemes something wide open. Why Jimmy isn't comfortable doing those things, I don't know. But I do think there's a scenario where Jimmy is good. And I think there's a scenario where he's good this year. Biggest issue that he's going to run into is Jimmy hasn't been a great practice player. Maybe he hasn't been a great practice player because he's just trying new things. Maybe he's just not a good practice player. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to bode well for Trey Lance if he can continue to execute. Eric Sully, what up? What up, boy? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We wouldn't even have Lance if Jimmy hit Sanders on the deep pass in the Super Bowl. I'd say we would. I don't think the Super Bowl win or loss factors into Trey Lance being drafted. I really think the only reason Trey Lance was drafted is not about anything that Jimmy is capable of doing. It's Jimmy can't stay healthy. So I guess it is about something he's not capable of staying healthy. That's what it looks like, right? I mean, again, like Kyle Shanahan is tying his success to this one guy. And he has been hurt 2 out of the 3 years. So like, bro, if I can't count on you to be on the field, then I have to do it. Like Super Bowl aside, I think even if Jimmy connected with Sanders on that Super Bowl, I still think we're in the same situation that we are now because outside of that Super Bowl run, bro, you haven't been able to stay healthy. If Jimmy played all year last year, then there would be no Trey Lance. I feel confident saying that. What do you think the running back rotation looks like this year, and do you think Mostert comes back or leaves? I mean, when you kind of look at the situation with the running backs and where they took guys, if I had to guess, I would say they're gearing up to be able to let Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and Gallman walk. Now, Gallman just might not make it this year, but I think as far as Mostert and Wilson go, I think they're gearing up to make it to where we don't have to bank on having you guys if we have these other two, young backs on cheaper contracts. So if I had to go a rotation this year, I think you see a solid rotation of Mostert, Wilson, and Sermon. And I think he kind of goes with a hot hand, but I think they utilize those guys in different ways. I mean, we've seen situations where they have a 1-2 punch with, two backs, and then Wilson is kind of the hammer on the goal line. I could see that being the case. Or maybe they think Sermon kind of gives them a combination of all that, and Mostert is kind of the change of pace guy. I would say with Mostert, they gave him maybe an opportunity to be a guy where it's like, hey, we give you the ball at 10, and for whatever reasons, high ankle sprains stuff is kind of crazy the way it happened, but maybe he didn't pass the test and maybe they looked to go a different direction. Crazy thing is Sermon just came off of, he had a broken collarbone in the championship game. So obviously he has to, stay healthy as well. But I think if you have those 3 backs, I think you're doing fine. I really like Jeff Wilson, the way he runs the ball. I think he's an explosive back in that from, that first 15 yards, the way he runs the ball, I think he does a really good job. I think his vision is really good as well. Runs with good acceleration and power. So I really like all 3 running backs, and I like that they haven't invested a whole lot into that group. I mean, maybe even a little bit more money than I would actually like. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's see. Croc, thanks for the content. Any guests on the Sherman situation? I think Sherman, thank you. Thank you for the love. I appreciate that. Again, if you guys aren't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, and right now hit that like button. Hit it right now. All right. As far as Sherman goes, I think they're going to wait to see what they have out of the cornerback group right now, right? Like if you're able to kind of go into this training camp with, Mosley and Verrett, and then you got like Thomas and, Diamador Lenore and some of these Kawan Williams, and you feel comfortable with that group, then I think you should stay with it. But if you look at that and it's like, man, we don't have a starting quarterback, right? Like it's just like, oh my gosh, Mosley just took more steps backwards and he's not looking good. You look at, we look at Verrett and it's like, oh man, Verrett goes down again. Like, he's dealt with some injuries and whatnot. I think if you, or just guys just look bad in general, then I think you see them go the veteran route, signing a veteran cornerback like Richard Sherman. But I think it's going to take guys to be bad for them to reach out to Sherman. I think they drafted multiple cornerbacks, hoping that they got some young depth and some guys that kind of develop. That's just my thoughts on that. Eric, man, you're right. Praying Hurd is a big part of this year. First of all, you spelled my name wrong. It's Eric with a C. But that has nothing to do with anything. Aside from that, though, yeah, man, Praying, like, big talented receiver, man. Like, and it sucks. I feel bad for him because he's had this opportunity. Probably, a goal of a lot of guys is to be able to make it to the NFL, and he spent his first 2 years on IR. So I know that's trash. I know he's not happy about that. What do you think of Hasty? I think Hasty is solid, but I can't see him cracking his roster unless just multiple guys get injured. All right, guys, I'm going to gear up now for another podcast on a different channel. Man, I appreciate everybody coming in here. Any last questions from anyone? Go ahead, leave those comments. I'll try to get to everything real quick in the next couple minutes. I appreciate everybody coming in here. Again, make sure if you're not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button right now. Who's my breakout player this year? Great question. Good roster. I would say it's kind of hard because it's like, man, who can break out who hasn't played well already, right? I mean, we've seen guys play well in Spurs, but you know what? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna say Emmanuel Mosley. Obviously, he's played well, but as far as kind of seeing Mosley, okay, maybe this is the Eric he's talking about, Eric Sully. All right, but breakout player, I'm gonna go with Emmanuel Mosley. We've seen him play well. I think maybe we see him put it all together this year. All right. Let's go. Much love. Appreciate you guys too. What do you expect from Armstead this year? Can he go back inside? Let's see. Armstead, man. I like Armstead. I think Armstead, when you look at Armstead and kind of what he is and what makes him be good, I think that versatility definitely helps. I think if you can kind of get D4 to get healthy, and we'll see about D4. I'm not writing them off. But you got Bosa coming back, got D4, you got Ekubum, you got some guys coming in, got Mo Hurst at defensive tackle. I think the nice little rotation that they're going to have at the defensive line, Kinlaw coming back. I think all those things are going to factor into Armstead playing well this year, and maybe kind of getting his sack numbers back up, just kind of having that pressure coming from the outside and whatnot. So, yeah, man, really like Armstead and his ability to kind of, bounce back. Maybe not have the double-digit sacks like he had a couple years ago, but I could see him definitely having a solid year. All right, man. I think that's going to be it. Let's see. Can we listen to your pod about to record? It's on somebody else's YouTube channel, or it's on their channel. I'm not even sure exactly how we're recording. Wish I could tell you guys, man, but maybe I could try to tweet it out or something if he sends me a leak and whatnot. I'm not sure if it's live or not. I know I'm terrible, man. I'm sorry about that, y'all. But again, I appreciate y'all coming on. Hey, my family is in California for the next 2-3 weeks, so I'm gonna be by myself. So I might be going live more often, and we just chop it up and talk. I'll go live tomorrow, Strike and Go podcast with my guy Rob Louder. We're actually creating a YouTube channel for that, so you guys can actually find it right now. The Strike and Go podcast is on YouTube. But I think we only have like one subscriber right now, so go subscribe, Strike and Go podcast. But aside from that, I'm out of here, man. I appreciate everybody coming on. I appreciate all the super chats. I appreciate all the love y'all continue to give me. I'm going to keep getting better at this. Got the new studio coming soon, the YouTube studio that I'm just got my office and everything. So we're about to get all that set up. Appreciate all y'all rocking with me. I'm going to keep the content